Hello everyone and welcome to yet another episode of Talking Esports. This is episode 6 and I'm your host ContactZero. I'm here with Kalvin Chung, the founder of M&M, and this week we'll be talking about Kalvin's org, Molotovs and Marshmallows, the ESL Premiership and some bits about the UK scene in between. I actually currently have a pinned poll on my Twitter asking about what content you would like to see, so please go on that and have a little vote. So with you, Cal, I think a good place to start would be why the name Molotovs and Marshmallows?
I guess with that it would be more. I wanted like a really fun name, and back then I didn't really expect it to get this far. I didn't really expect us to do anything with it. It was just a name that me and my friends came up with when we were. I don't know. We wanted a team back in 2011, and we didn't want something cliche like a tiger or a bear or something ferocious. We just wanted something fun.
Okay,
I guess that's it, really.
fair enough. How did you actually get involved with esports and the UK scene?
Um, I guess like I think in 2000, yeah, like in 2013, we made a team, and then I went on my year abroad, and in my first year, I went on my abroad on the second year. My first year, I just played a lot of CS:GO, and I don't know, I really liked it back then, 2012 to 13, and then when I came back from a holiday, like when I came back for 2 or 3 weeks from my year abroad in February 2014. I decided to go to Epic 12 and I met some players there and I got involved through that, I guess. I got invited to the Facebook group and everything.
All right. What
Yes.
kind of experience did you have, if any, before creating M&M in business? Do you think it's necessary to have a basic understanding of business principles or marketing to get involved?
Um, I didn't really have any experience. My major at university is economics, joint honors economics and Chinese, so I didn't know anything about marketing or social media. I just kind of picked up on the way. And I think that if I had known about it, I probably would have grown a lot quicker than I currently did. But that's, yeah, that's it really.
Okay. Do you think it's necessary? Well, not necessary, but do you think that there are any books that you've read along the way that would have helped, or is it literally just been a trial and error process?
Um, it was kind of a trial and error process. I think that it's necessary to be competent, but I guess that's in all parts of life. You have to be competent in some way. But in terms of like managing an org itself, you just have to. I think the most important thing would be commitment. You don't really learn. You don't really just have that. You just, I guess, you earn commitment depending how much you care about something.
Why did you decide to form an organization in the first place?
Um, well, like I said, in my first year, I really played quite a lot of Counter Strike, and I played a lot of Source, but back then it was just more for fun, as opposed to wanting to compete. And then I wanted to get involved in esports, and back then, without being a really good player or knowing anyone, that was the only way I could see myself getting involved.
Okay. At the start, what procedures did you actually have to go through to like establish M&M as a business? I assume it's a fully, I don't even know what the word is, but it's a company, isn't it?
Um, as like a limited company,
Yeah.
do you mean? Um, we did consider doing that. We actually still haven't done that yet because it still costs quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I want to wait a bit first, but I will probably do that sometime this year. But in terms of like procedures, um, I think I had to find a graphics designer. I didn't really know Photoshop then. Um, and I know I made a Facebook page, a Twitter page, and just like anyone else would do. I don't think there's anything in particular you need to do to make an organization. And I think most people can make them. You just have to think of a name, think of a logo, and you're good to go.
Well, in that case, can you tell us a little bit about like what the daily basis tasks you do, or just from week to week, what's your schedule look like as a founder of M&M?
Um, well, every day I like to keep a good relationship with all my players, whether it's just talking to them about, what's going on and updates on how they're doing, or just finding about, if they've got problems in their life. I'm happy to talk to them about that. Um, I don't actually, it's probably something I should do, but I don't actually have planned posts on social media. I have to manually do it when I decide to make a post, and I have to make the graphics for them as well because in the organization it's just me, my brother, Flexi, who helps manage the UK LOL team, and Timmy, who helps me with websites. We both design the website, but he helps me with the hosting and the email addresses and so on. Um, and so I have to do all the graphics design for the social media. I spend actually most of my time just planning things ahead in like planning the next few months. I plan things in quarters or half year in terms of what events we're going to do, how much money we have, and how much is going to go to this team and that team, and what are the next steps we have to take. Or do we decide, are we going to grow in this next quarter, or are we going to consolidate and stay the same size and see in terms of management, can we handle this much pressure or workload? So I'd say that that's what I spend most of the time doing, apart from obviously playing games and talking to players.
Yeah. So how did you actually get involved with these people like Flexi and everyone else?
I met Flexi at Epic 14. He was behind the team that I had then. It was Noodles, Raygans, Vedius, Giga, and Artorias, who's currently our sub for top lane.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know anyone in the LoL scene, and he was standing behind him, and I thought it was quite weird that someone was sitting behind us watching the games. And I thought, hello, who are you? And he's like, yeah, I'm Flexi. I already know Noodles because he played for Choke. And then I think around Easter, summertime, between spring and summer, he decided to, yeah, I asked him, do you want to help me with the management? Because he was a competent person and trustworthy. So that's how I met him. In terms of players, um, I got this current low lineup. I mean, there have been a few changes in top lane and jungle, but Half Past Thor, Prosphere, and Smokey have been there since we picked the lineup up in summer. And obviously, Flexi knew Smokey for quite a long time. I knew Prosphere because he was in the lineup that we had at Epic 14. He was a sub then. He couldn't make it to LAN, but he was on the roster. And I wanted to bring those two players back. And Smokey had already found other players to play with, and that was Thor, and back then it was Flash for top lane, who played for Pariah last season, and um, we had someone at the very start who left after a few days. I can't remember his name, but we got Chriso in the end for LAN. In terms of Counter Strike, I guess going to LANs, especially since 2014, has helped. I just meet more and more people, speak to people on Steam, and for Trackmania, yeah, that was it. Vale. Sorry, someone just commented it was Vale.
Yeah.
Um, for Trackmania, I knew one of the head managers of the team, and we just spoke for 5, 6 months before we thought, do you want to join us? And that's where it went from there.
So, are you quite hands-on in that case on deciding who actually is part of your teams, or do you have coaches to decide that for you, and you basically just let them and trust them to do it?
We actually don't have any coaches. We have an analyst for LoL that we picked up recently, and we, in terms of, I get hands-on in that I have to check everyone who joins. I try not to micromanage teams, and yeah, because I feel like people who do that, I shouldn't get involved in the team itself. If there's a problem that could involve just damaging M&M, or there are issues that players want to resolve, then I will go help them. But in terms of choosing who is in the team, I don't have a say in that. I just have to check when they join that I have to talk to them and say, this is what we do, this is what we're about.
Okay. So, as an organization, what would you say you're trying to achieve, and what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Um, I'm still quite unsure about this. There was a point um, a few months ago, someone asked or offered me to go full time and to have a lot of money invested in M&M. But I thought to myself, I don't know if I want to do this. I want to continue my degree and graduate first. So I don't think I can answer that properly until I graduate. And in terms of goals, I just want to support people. I don't actually make money from this. It's taken a long time just to break even as an organization. And I guess I just enjoy meeting people and supporting people who wouldn't get the support otherwise. Esports is a hard place to get opportunity and support. So
Yeah,
I think even one person, one organization, can make a difference. And I guess the more the better.
yeah, for sure. Especially in the UK scene, there aren't too many organizations at the moment, but hopefully more will get involved. Moving on from that, then, how do you actually choose which esports titles to get involved in?
Um, it can be several reasons. It can be um, it could be a necessity. Maybe we have to expand. We decide we've hit our limit right now. We need to increase some form of, we need more social media posts, so we need another team, or we feel like we can expand our budget, or we need more lands or something, or maybe more social media presence, so that can come from a team. Or like the Trackmania players, like I said, I was really good friends with Andrew, who's the one of the team managers, and I wanted to help him. He wasn't with an organization, and they were still one of the top teams in the world. And so that could be the second reason, which is more I just want to support people. If I can do it, I will do it.
Okay. Is there anything in specific that you look for when you're expanding, like in terms of the actual game? Like when you're choosing a game to move into, is there something that you look for in that game?
Um, in terms of, is it a big game? No. I mean, Trackmania isn't a big game, and the new iteration, let's say, of Trackmania is coming out, and when no one's sure, is it going to be the death of Trackmania, or is it going to revive it? In terms, but it has to be. I mean, it has to be enjoyable to watch, of course, and I think games are esports titles because they're enjoyable to watch. So I think every game in esports, I wouldn't mind picking up, as long as it's PC, because that's where I'm currently focusing.
Okay. Are you thinking about possibly going into, say, like Street Fighter 5 at all? Because obviously that's just come out, and I think that could potentially be one of the next big ones, especially in the UK anyway, since we're pretty good at fighting games.
Um, I am not. I feel I'm not going to expand anymore for the next 4 months, let's say, 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
I've already got another team, which I haven't announced, but we've had them for quite a long time now, maybe a month or more. But apart from that, which I will announce soon, we're not going to expand. I want to see if we can handle the current pressure that we have in terms of management, and if it's going to be too much. Do we have enough funding? And if we do expand, we would have to get another sponsor.
Okay. Um, just talking about esports titles then. Overwatch is obviously one that's coming out quite soon. Do you think that could
Yeah,
potentially be like the next big esports?
yeah. I've been watching it quite a lot on, Twitch streamers playing it or YouTube videos,
Yeah.
and I, Team Fortress 2 is a really popular game, and it is seemingly a bit outdated, or it could be outdated to some people. And I guess Overwatch could be the new answer. And I already know a lot of organizations are moving to Overwatch from Team Fortress 2 itself, as opposed to just moving into Overwatch. So I think that's evidence of people deciding that is the new Team Fortress.
I mean, it seems quite fun. I've been wanting to into it for a while, but unfortunately, I've not been able to get the beta key, so I can't. But my friends have been playing it, and they've been absolutely just bashing it 24/7 because they think it's so much better than Team Fortress. I mean, look at someone like Seb or Numlocked for some people who don't know
Yeah,
his real name. He switched from Team Fortress to League, but now that Overwatch is out, he's gone back to that kind of FPS route and gone to play Overwatch, and he's part of
for
G2 for
gamers.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
I think that's really cool actually. That people are that another esport title is coming out. I mean, I don't know how much longer, like I said, Trackmania is going to last. I mean, I love the game. I think it's a really cool game. I used to play Nations Forever in 2008.
yeah,
Um, and obviously, StarCraft 2 is another game that could. I don't know if it's going to plateau or if it's going to die. So to see more esport titles out there and people recognizing them in terms of organizations and support is a really positive thing. It's just throwing a bigger net to catch more people, and the more people interested in esports, the bigger we're going to get.
have you seen the game that's I can't remember who it's made by now, but it's Paragon that's coming out?
Yeah, that's a kind of like Smite, isn't it?
Yeah, kinda. What do you think about that?
Um, I think it looks really cool, and I don't know if it's going to be one of those Infinity Crisis games, but in terms of Smite and as a FPS, which is what Paragon's going for, I think it's really cool. My friend and I were not very good at League, and we prefer to play Smite because it's first person or third person, and it's more tuned to what we're used to, let's say.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good, unique way of going into MOBAs. And I think if Paragon does something different to Smite, then I think that's can only be a positive.
From what I've seen, it looks really, really good. Obviously, that like the graphics looks very interesting, and the gameplay. I've only seen a little bit of it, but it looks like quite unique.
Yeah,
However, because of the graphics being so intensive, I imagine a lot of people might not be able to play it. It probably won't be so much a casual game, even though they would like it to be, because they've marketed it as basically free to play. All the champions and everything is unlocked from the get go. So I think they're just going to go off the basis of microtransactions from like skins and stuff. But like for example, on this PC I've got here at work, I wouldn't be able to play it, but I could probably get away with playing Smite or Heroes on this because it's not as graphically intensive. So I think that might be something that would restrict it a little bit.
yeah. Well, I remember, I think 2 years ago, I wrote an article about it. It was just after the Dota documentary Free to Play came out by Valve. And it got me thinking, why is esports getting so big? And why wasn't, I mean, back then Counter-Strike was dying. It was really not taking off,
Yeah,
like hitting off. And I just thought um, it would be accessibility. The reason Dota and LoL is so successful is because it's so accessible. And like you said, yeah, Paragon will be accessible, but you won't be able to play it. And that could be an issue for Paragon, I'd say. You're right in suggesting that.
yeah. I'm hoping it'd be good anyway. I think it's coming out in like June or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
So moving on from that anyway. Last year you sent your teams. I think it was last year you sent your teams
yeah,
to Copenhagen Games,
yeah.
and you also wanted to do it this year. Unfortunately, you can't. Can you tell us a little bit about the Copenhagen Games and why you decided to send teams there?
We had back then we had a Counter Strike team, a European one, and now the players play for Playing Ducks and Team Alternate. Yeah, they're doing really well for themselves now. But yeah, back then they were really, let's say, upcoming. They beat, I think we beat ESC Gaming, um, and we came fourth in the DreamHack qualifier, and you had to come top two to qualify. So we just missed out on that, and we thought, let's go for LAN, and the closest LAN was Copenhagen. And now I'd never been to Denmark, and I wanted to go as well, so we decided to just go for it. We got one of the Penta eSport players, Trouble, to fill in because we didn't have a fifth player then. And the event was actually really cool. There was, Team Acer was there, Virtus Pro, Publiclear, um, Copenhagen Wolves. There were a lot of big teams, and uh, although it's the same time as iSeries, I think it's definitely worth a go if you want to make it big. But it's really hard. It's a very big event, and there's a lot of tier one and two teams there, so you have to make sure your investment's worth it. But the event itself was really cool. The tickets were 65 euros, I think, per entry, and the prize pool was 28,000
Bloody hell.
euros. So it was definitely worth the money if you make it that far.
Yeah, for
And the
sure.
stages were really cool as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting actually. I mean, I don't really know too much about it because I tend to try and focus on the UK scene kind of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, did you actually make anything from it? But I mean, even if you didn't,
Um,
65 euros compared to what would it the equivalent be about maybe 150 euros for an iSeries ticket per head?
yeah. Well, the problem for us was getting there because
Mm,
we had to bring our PCs, so we rented a van and we drove from Germany all the way to Denmark, and then crossed the sea from Germany into Denmark, and then just drove to Copenhagen. So that was a big issue. We arrived at very late at night. Um, we also entered in some competition for a game called Interstellar Marines for about £1,000 prize pool. We just got invited to play in that on stage, which was really cool. And the players were so tired, we just got knocked out really quickly. But it was cool to be on stage. In terms of profit, no. We lost to Lemon Dogs 16-14 in the end. And we got knocked out. And yeah, it was a double elimination, and we lost to what is now Ents. And we lost to, yeah, Lemon Dogs. So, but they were really close games. So, in terms of coverage, I guess we made money from having something to post. I think that any event it's worth to go to because you would have something to post about on your social media. Just have that presence is really important. And it gave us, I don't know, we'd been to Copenhagen Games and we did pretty well. So
yeah.
that was quite cool.
Yeah, I was going to actually just follow up on that question by, or that answer rather, by asking is, I mean, for most UK tournaments, if not probably all of them, you never really make your money back, or if you do, it's probably you break even. So is the main reason to enter these tournaments basically just publicity?
Yeah, I mean, when people say, "Oh, damn it, I'm not going to make money," I'm like, well, don't be surprised because no one's making money.
Mm,
You would make your money back from publicity. When I'm at LAN, get as many photos as you can because 2 months down the line, you're gonna think, damn, I need something to post on social media. And that photo is going to be what you need to post, or you make a new article and you need an image. That's going to be the image you're going to use. So when I'm at events, I always try to plan like maybe I'd need this type of photo. Oh, I need to advertise, let's say, Thermaltake, TT Esports. I need products, like photos of products, because I don't have them and the players do. So while they're there, I have to take as many photos as I can, or just being at the events, meeting people. Like just for example, if you make 5 new friends and supporters for your organization every LAN, that is priceless. You can't buy people who support you, like
yeah.
who actually cheer you on and follow you. It's easy to do a giveaway, but that doesn't really mean anything in the end. So people who look at the UK and, oh, I don't want to go because I'm going to lose. It's like that's the worst mentality to have, and I think that has stunted our growth as a country.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. So talking about social media then, what kind of people do you have to help create your brand, and like what can you give us any insight into like your social marketing strategy?
Um, the social media is just me,
Okay.
and I Chris, like I said, in terms of staff, the main staff are my brother, who he works and lives in Hong Kong, so he can't do any social media. He just does reports and checks up on things and helps around. Helps make sure. I need to be in check as well. Everyone needs to
Yeah.
be in check. Everyone can go on a wild ride, let's say. And so after that, it'll be Chris who helps with the UK, helps me book events, helps me at events, and updates me on the LoL team. I mean, I would say in terms of teams, I am very friendly, very good friends with the LoL players. But sometimes there are some things in LoL I don't understand, or I can't keep up with every event, so he has to update me. I try to watch every event from all the teams, which does take a lot of time, but it's not always possible. And then the last person would be Timmy, who helps with, like I said, the website. So social media would all be me, and I try plan it a lot. In terms of Facebook, I wouldn't post more than once a day because of the way Facebook limit your posts. So I want to make sure that reaches. I want to make sure each post is quality and is full of quality. Sorry. And in terms of Twitter, anything and everything would go there because it's just the nature of Twitter is just to tweet a lot, get out there and post something interesting that even one person might engage with. I make all the graphics as well. So I I think I only learnt Photoshop because of Eminem about a year and a half ago because I realized that I needed to learn how to do it. I didn't have anyone helping for the first year and a half. It was, well, nearly 2 years. It was just me and my brother, and no one else was really willing to help us. So he had to learn video editing, and I had to learn Photoshop, or I had to learn League of Legends. I didn't play it like until I got a team. When I got the team at Epic 14, I was like, I need to learn this game because it's my job to understand and help these players. And if I can't understand the game, I can't do that job properly. Um, so that helps me make posts. If I don't understand the game, I can't make posts about the game.
Yeah, of course.
Um, but I really think that I wouldn't get anyone new in terms of staff unless we needed it. I think there can be a problem with overstaffing. There'll be a lot of miscommunication. It's harder to manage, and it's just liabilities, I guess.
Yeah,
to
sure.
put it in a negative way.
How do you believe that you can take M&M to the next level? Like, what's the next stage that you think you could do to basically improve the organization?
In terms of like, I think right now we're doing okay in terms of management, and for the funding that we have, we get good results, I guess. I mean, we're always in UK CS:GO top 10, and we always place top 6 to 8. Same for LoL, I guess. We place pretty well. Played third last LAN, and LAN before that we came fifth. Given that Dignitas and Ex Nihilio were there,
Yeah,
um, and so we're doing well in terms of events. We went to ESWC as well, so we're doing well in terms of international presence in Europe. You know, we're still a UK organization, but we're still knocking on the door of Europe. Um, I would say we are struggling in funding a lot. We're probably, I mean, I'm pretty open with how much funding we get with the players, and most people realize that we're probably the least funded organization. I know a lot of, let's say, top 16 teams who are more funded than us. So I guess, to put it straight, we need funding, and we need someone to invest in us and believe that we can go to the next level. Because we're just sometimes, like today, we lost a player to Planet Key Dynamics. We couldn't stop it. We didn't have the funding to send a player to Gamers Assembly, and Planet Key offered. So yeah, obviously the player went there, and
yeah,
there's nothing I can do about that.
yeah, that's fair enough, obviously. So, do you think that's an issue with maybe not the UK scene, but just in general that because, well, maybe it is a bit more to the UK scene because I think something like contracts would obviously stop that kind of thing. We don't really have contracts at the moment in. Some organisations do, but if we had those contracts in, that would obviously stop, or maybe not stop, but make it less likely that players would just up and leave. I mentioned it in one of the episodes before. I can't remember which one, but Gaming in Motion. I don't even know if they
Yeah.
exist anymore, but they had like two or three pretty decent league teams, probably top 8 teams. But then another organization just came in and offered them slightly more, and then they just went, "Okay, bye, we'll go there instead."
Um, that does create, let's say, versatility. Um, it creates a versatile environment where you can change your team after one event, like the team you represent. In terms of contracts, I don't think contracts are really necessary. Um, I like I said, we are a lot less funded than most organizations, and people only leave us if they get a really good offer. Like the Planet Key, he got full funding for all the coming events, and we couldn't provide that. And I was like, that's fair enough. That's a really good offer. You should take that. I can't give you that, so you should take it. But in terms of UK organizations, unless it's something like Infused or a payroll, I would say we can generally keep the players we have because we work hard in management. So I don't think people should point fingers and say, oh, it's because we didn't have contracts. It's you clearly didn't do something right, or your relationship with the players weren't that good if they just left you.
Yeah, that's
And if you can't have the time to spend with them to make a good relationship, then you have overstepped your boundary and you need to consolidate a bit. You shouldn't have 3 teams if you can't manage 3 teams. If you can't get a good relationship with them, if you can't support them, then why have that many teams? It's more teams doesn't exactly mean it's not more is not better in this case. It's better to have one team that you can fully fund. And I don't think contracts fix that issue that people can't see. They can't see that maybe they're not good managers, maybe they're not a good organization, maybe your brand isn't good. Um, I like to think that we've made a good brand, and people think it's fun to, even have a Steam logo or a T-shirt with it, and so some people think that's good enough. it's a fun team to join, and they get some funding. So does getting that extra whatever funding from another team that you might not consider to be as good in terms of management or you don't want to represent worth it? For some people, no, it's not worth it. So I don't think contracts is the issue there. I'd say it's mismanagement and bad planning.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair point. So, following on from that, what advice would you give to anyone who wants to either start an organization or basically improve their organization, or maybe even just start a league team just to begin? Because it's obviously not the easiest to just go out there and start creating 4 or 5 teams straight away.
Um, Firstly, I'd say, I mean, you probably know this as well, that we don't make profit as an organization unless you're a tier one team or a tier two team in esports in general. National teams don't really make profit. Um, and then if you're happy with that, then I would say expect a slog because it took me 2 years to get over 2 years to get to the stage I am now, and I'm only really breaking even now. I don't still don't make profit, and I'm fine with that. But I know many people aren't. All the time I've spent on M&M, I could have probably made a lot of money just working part time, or I could have studied a bit more, or spent more time doing something else. But that's the path I chose to do. So if you want to make an org, then you really have to invest a lot of time into it. Um, More sponsors does not mean a good thing. I know a lot of new teams come out and they just put a lot. They try to contact everyone they can and get as many, let's say, sponsors or partners as they can, and so they think it looks better, but in reality, it doesn't. It means that a lot of players who I've heard the issue before, a lot of players who join the organization thinking, oh, it's going to be amazing, they've got all this and that, realize that it's just full of empty promises or they're not really representing anything. Why have all these logos on your, let's say, social media or your team shirt if you're not actually getting anything or doing anything for them as well?
Yeah.
Um, don't expect to get sponsors anytime soon. And I think someone said this to me recently. If we come top three, would we get more funding? And I said no, because funding doesn't matter. It doesn't come from results. Funding comes from someone investing in you. And if no one's going to invest in the UK, or if no one watches you come third, then you're not going to get more funding because there's no more funding to have. So I would tell people that don't invest too much of your own money into it. And if you do, let people know that you are doing that so people don't take you for a ride or don't create a false image of security. I know a lot of organizations who have all this funding, and I don't know where it comes from because I know most sponsors and what they give into and what they put into the UK scene. I know it doesn't extrapolate that far. The only way they could be getting that funding would be their own money. Now, most players don't realize that it's coming from their own money, and they assume that this is the new norm. So let's say you 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 and five managers decide to put in £100 a month. That's a big investment. £500 a month is a lot of money. A year that's over that's 6,000 a year. And so if you don't let people know, if you're not transparent about how you get the money, then people will think, oh, 500 a month, that's normal now. Maybe new people are investing in the UK, but in reality they're not. So expectations changes from players, and then if you're not doing if you're teaching players the wrong things about management and expectations, then they're going to carry that on until the next generation, and the smaller organizations are just going to, let's say, die out because they can't compete with that. And I think any new person who does that is an idiot. Don't do that. That's outright stupid. Um, It's taking a sense. Let's pretend that we have 20 grand invested in the UK when in reality we only have 10, but everyone thinks we have 20. So who can we support? It's just a bubble waiting to explode. Um, Learn Photoshop. That's really important. Learn as much as you can. Like I spent a year playing League of Legends and I got gold. And I thought, okay, this is fine. This is a level, a decent level that that I'm happy to be at to manage a League of Legends team, even if it's not micromanagement. I want to have that understanding. And I think there are a lot of managers out there who don't play the games or don't spend the time learning the game that they're supporting. I think that's also a badge because that will help you become a better manager, um, plan ahead a lot. I see people just picking up teams left, right, and center in all these different games, but they just disband a month later because they probably don't have the manpower to keep those teams. Like I said, I'm in a consolidation stage right now. I've picked up um, something new, a new team, and which I haven't announced yet, but I don't know if I can keep it. So I want to make sure I can in these next few months. Um, so I think those are a few points. Oh, and don't compare yourself. I
Yeah,
know a lot of people who compare themselves to organizations saying, "Oh, why do they have this? Or why do we not have this?" And there's a lot that you might not realize that goes behind the scene. Maybe they have someone that works at that company, and maybe they have a good relationship. Maybe they went to an event and met one of the people and built up a relationship. There's a lot to sponsors and a lot of things that happen behind an organization that people can't see in the face value. So don't get angry over comparing yourself with them. It's just a waste of energy.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, I don't think it's too bad to just look at different organizations to see what they're doing. But as you said, do not compare them because they've had this much experience before you. Like, for example, if say I started an organization today and then I said, let's have a look at what M&M are doing. Well, you've had 2 years, 2.5 years experience. So of course I'm not going to be able to do the same things that you can, but I can go, well, they've done this over the last 2.5 years. Maybe I can try and see like imitate some of the things that they're doing, trying to
Yeah,
create a brand, see what they're doing on social media to actually improve their brand and what they're doing at the certain iSeries events or just other tournaments as well. And following on from your point, talking about learning how to Photoshop, I'd say if you're an owner or a manager, if you don't know someone who can code websites, like do basic understanding of code, get someone else who does because it's such a useful skill to be able to basically build your own website because it looks so much more professional than say any just a standard templated website. For
yeah,
example, like your website, I really like, but if you look at the majority of the other teams, and we're guilty of this at the moment because we're
yeah.
not investing anything
Sportsify.
into it. Yeah, they
Yeah,
use Spotify exactly, and it just doesn't look very good, and there's only so much you can do with it. So definitely try and get a website that looks professional because people will land on that page and if it doesn't look professional, they just go, never mind, and X the tab off and they'll never look at it again.
yeah. Well, even if it doesn't look professional, it has to look unique. Let's say themed. It has to. When you look at the website, you have to know that it's your website, and yeah, it's very difficult to do that through a template. I know a lot of teams who move to WordPress, and I think that's an easy way to do things to change the colors and make something yours. Um, so yeah, we fortunately we fortunately I know how to Photoshop well now, and Timmy and I spent a lot of time designing this new website. I wanted to have exactly everything I wanted, and I just found a coder that I knew well, I didn't know, but we became good friends now, and he fortunately coded it for me at a very reasonable price and reasonable time scale. So we're looking to. Fortunately, we have someone like that we know. But yeah, you're right. I think starting off with a template is fine, but you would have to move on from it in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And as you mentioned before, we know that teams, well, not teams, but sponsors don't really care about where you place. It's how many people have seen you and how many people have interacted on your social media. So there's a question I want to ask you following on from that. Do you think UK orgs need different departments such as like marketing, social media, or art departments to be successful?
Um, it doesn't have to be a department as such.
Someone
It's
who's
just,
doing it.
yeah, it could be one person doing all of them. It could be several people. Um, I would say yes to an extent. Um, it would have to be. I mean, I mentioned before about liabilities of overstaffing, and that could be a trap that people could fall into. Oh, I don't know how to do this, and this person does. I'll just get these people to do it for me. And one, you don't learn anything that way. You don't learn anything. You don't learn on Photoshop because someone else is doing it for you. And two, that person could cause more trouble than the person solves. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to get different departments, I would say don't overstaff and make sure who you pick up is doing their job well and they represent you well. Um, but I don't know. I think it's a difficult question to say because I am someone who doesn't like to pick up staff very often. I've picked up, let's say, two main people in the past 2 years, two and a bit years, and that's not a lot compared to most
Yeah.
organizations. So I'd say I'm a bad example to ask about picking up people and doing things, and
I think
um,
that's fair because if you're saying that there's a reason behind you doing that, because I know when we studied, I mean, I did computer science at university, but we did do project management as one of the modules. And one
yeah,
of the first things we actually discussed was the fact that the reason most businesses fail is because they try and basically expand too quickly and they don't allow for the growth to, like, they try to expand quicker than they actually grow. And people don't realize, they think, oh, well, we'll just add one person here and one person here. Well, that means there's two extra people to communicate with, and you have to get them on board with to what you're actually planning, and that means there's more communication involved. And because there's more communication involved, that means it's going to take actually longer for things to do. It's particularly true in programming because it's a lot more complicated. But I imagine it's the same case for just business and having meetings in general and actually trying to get a team together.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, a lot of miscommunication.
Yeah,
Um, the Have you ever heard the phrase "a camel is a committee's horse"?
I don't think so. No.
So let's say you're trying to make a horse, and a committee, everyone has a say, and it ends up being a camel because everyone wants to input something different. So you end up 10 different minds not on the same plane, trying to make something, in a different way, and it ends up being a camel instead of a horse. So as great as different ideas are, has to be a limit. Otherwise, you're gonna get a camel as opposed to a horse.
Yeah.
And I think that comes with like just over the years. We've changed logo once. We didn't used to have a marshmallow, and we do now, obviously. But there have been times during since this current logo that people have tried to change it. Players, and they're like, "Oh, this looks cool," and I'm just like, I have to say no because that's completely opposed to the reason why we made the current logo, and that can come from staff as well. If everyone's got all these different ideas, yes, there's going to be miscommunication, but it's just also going to end up as a disaster. It will, any new organizations, referring to your previous question, just don't get too many staff. Do it yourself and see if you actually need the help. If you can't handle it, then get the help. Don't be lazy about it, or just you don't I mean, esports organizations is not a lazy job. Just get on with it. And if you can't do it, get out. If you need the help, get help. Don't just get people for the sake of getting people.
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit about like publicity, and you were talking about investment. So obviously you have a few sponsorship deals at the moment.
Yeah.
How did these actually develop, and how do you think these sponsorships help an organization like M&M grow?
We have two main sponsors, Thermotake, TT Sports, and SK Sports. So Thermotake, obviously, they give us gear, and we help them. Uh, Legally, there's not too much I can say about what we have between us, of course, but it helps because we may not have the funding. Let's say we can't. Let's say uh, someone has 1.5 more of what we offer, and I say, yeah, I can't give you that, but I can give you a lot of gear: a keyboard, headset, mouse mat, a gaming bag. A gaming bag to, yeah, I was just thinking I've got one behind me, to carry all your gear in. You can represent a brand which has 1.5 million likes on Facebook, in terms of Thermotake and Thermotake esports together. That itself, I said before, yeah, it's not the contracts because maybe you don't have a good brand, but that helps your brand a lot. You're on a website of a huge company, you know. Um, why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? Do you think that's worth more than that point 0.5 extra of money?
Yeah.
Um, some people it is, yeah, it's worth more. Some people want to be part of that brand. Some people want to engage with these different communities or be part of something that is big on the internet.
How much do you actually talk to these organizations or these sponsors,
Um,
and how much do they actually help you? Apart
uh,
from the giving the gear, do you actually talk to them
some
to help your
funding, we
brand?
get some funding every month, and like I said before, I don't create a false bubble of how much money we have, and I don't try not to put as much money into the organization on my own because obviously I have to pay rent and electricity and stuff. So um, I still do, but not as much as I used to because I want to make sure people have the right mentality towards how much they have or how much they get and how much we have to offer. I talk to them a lot. Thermotake nearly every day. We have bi-weekly meetings, and we have we meeting reports. We discuss what's going on in the future, what's going on right now, um, what we can help with, what we're doing wrong, what they're doing wrong. We discuss a lot. We plan that we're both so that we're both on the same line. We both move forward together. Otherwise, there's no point having them with us. There's no point just giving us gear and not making the most out of it. And so we have a really good relationship. And I think if you don't have a good relationship, then it's going to be very easy for them to drop you or you to drop them.
Yeah, that's fair enough. There's a question I wanted to ask before, but I forgot, so I'm just going to ask it now. We were
Yeah,
talking about prize pools. So we
yeah.
know for this iSeries, Hearthstone again has a 30k prize pool compared to League, Dota, and CS:GO, which again only have 5k each. What are your thoughts on this?
Um, I mean, I can see both sides of the arguments. Some people think that's ridiculous, and some people would think, oh, that's normal because Hearthstone is an international. That Hearthstone tournament is an international tournament. It's not like there are a lot of people from around the world that be watching that as opposed to the LoL and Dota and CS:GO. Maybe a few Europeans who pass by on Twitch or who are really into esports, but predominantly it's going to be a UK competition. So, you know, would increasing that LoL tournament prize pool to 10 grand make a difference? No, we already know we don't make money from the prize pools. In terms of organizations and then in terms of internationally, would it make a difference? No, it's not a right funded tournament, sponsored tournament. So we know that most tournaments below CS or a national ESL tournament aren't very supported by community or Twitch. Dota, same again. It might be a bit different. If it had a big prize pool, maybe some more people would watch it, but it would be definitely be the skill level or teams. Your favorite team would definitely not be playing there. There are like 4 official teams in Dota, like Xanax. I think Perilous might still have a team, but there aren't that many teams. And for CS:GO, unless it gets onto CS:GO Lounge, which it didn't last time, then who's going to watch it?
Yeah,
Like I said, it's a national tournament. National people care, but in terms of Europeans, not many.
I think CS:GO is probably the biggest out of the others because
Yeah,
a lot of people seem to be getting involved with that. I think me and Billy discussed this a little bit on episode 4. But yeah, CS:GO just seems to be a better spectator sport because it's easier for you to watch. You don't really need to know you if that guy's being shot and killed. You know that what's happening in terms of the round. Whereas when you're watching League, it's quite difficult to actually understand what's going on unless you have at least a basic
yeah,
understanding of the game. And that's why I would be slightly worried for League and where it might go in the next, say, 5, 10 years, because that I would say is partly the reason why StarCraft is kind of
I
like on
know.
the dead
Yeah,
zone because it's so complicated. It's probably the most complicated game to watch because it's not. There's no clarity involved unless you know exactly what those units are and what they're doing and the the,
the
the
build
deep
plus.
understand.
Yeah,
Yeah, the deep understanding of the actual game. Then you're just gonna go, oh yeah, something's happening, and then you just see the GG and go, okay, someone won. Okay, that's fine.
yeah. I highly respect StarCraft players, and I respect organizations that still support StarCraft a lot. But like you said, CS:GO is a lot easier to watch, and it's a lot easier to pick up. You don't have a grind to level 30,
Yeah,
which I obviously experienced when I learned LOL in the past year, which was horrible. It was just, it took so long, and I I didn't enjoy it at all. As opposed to CS:GO, as you play a few casual games and pop into ranked. Um,
you know what?
I,
I think that's actually a interesting point because just one point before I go into this is luckily they are actually, I think they said, halving the amount of experience you need to get to level 30, which is going to help a lot of people. But what's actually really interesting is the fact that even all those games that you play, it might be like what 150, 200 to get to level 30. It's still
yeah,
not enough for you to actually understand the game. Like a lot of
yeah,
people who get to level 30, they'll place in bronze and silver, maybe silver if they're lucky, but it's basically only if you're naturally talented at the game will you get any higher, or if you can pick up those kind of things, or if you played those kind of games before, like say Hon or something before League. Whereas
yeah,
CS:GO, easy peasy. There's not a skill curve at all. Or there is a skill curve to get to the very high levels, but to actually just casually play the game, you just need to know how to basically press left click, and
yeah,
then you're alright.
yeah, yeah. I would say there are a lot of people who are climbing ranks because they can aim. They don't know how to smoke grenades. All they need to know is where the enemy is, kill them, and boom, they're going to climb ranks. Obviously, up to a certain level.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, there's not much past that. And that actually, I think that helps motivate people to improve. They're climbing ranks, they can visually see a difference. As opposed to League, it's very statistics based. You can see how much LP you're gaining, and that can really tilt someone
yeah,
if you lose a game and you see how much LP you lose. Um, and I honestly think the only reason I got gold was because I manage a team, I watch all the games, and I listen in on everything. I wouldn't know all the information I know. I mean, I still don't know. I don't know what half the champions do, but the only reason I got gold is because Smokey said, play like this, build this. I'm like, okay.
yeah.
And then there it was. Um, so I think in terms of a mental state, it is a lot easier to get into CS:GO as well. It's easier to climb, or it's easier to, you lose a game and you don't derank. You have no idea if you're gonna derank or not. It doesn't tilt you.
Yeah,
Um, you might be at the very bottom, losing one more game might derank you, but you don't know that. It doesn't tilt your next game. So yeah,
I think what Billy made a point as well about this. Basically, unlike League of Legends, every round is like a redo. Like, you don't
yeah,
have to worry. Yeah, you lose 4 rounds, but I mean, look at Fnatic versus Luminosity. They were like, what, 13-2 down, and they win in
yeah,
overtime. You would never get that in League. You would never be like 13. Well, not never, but it's so rare. You'd never be down like 20k gold, especially in this meta that's currently going on at the moment. You'd never be down that much and just go, all right, there's actually a chance for us to win.
yeah. I think it. Yeah, like especially. I mean, personally, comparing this patch to the last one mistake in lane and that's it. Your two towers are gone.
Yeah,
Bot lane.
it's crazy.
Everything just seems to extrapolate much more than it did last season, and that also could put people off. It's a very much a carrot and stick method, which some people aren't very happy with, I guess.
Yeah. Right, so what I want to actually do now is talk about the ESL Premiership and
Yeah,
do like a review of the week 3 games, which were last Wednesday, and then following on from that, we'll talk about week 4, which is tomorrow. So the first game that was on last week should have been, I think, infused, but obviously due
yeah,
to Cliff being banned, that ended up not playing because they used all their subs and they weren't allowed to play anyone else. And there was a bit
yeah.
of controversy around that as well, with the fact that ESL had apparently told them that they could play, and then they said like an hour before the game, actually you can't play, so they weren't
Well,
even able
it's
to get
a
anyone.
Riot supported tournament, isn't it?
Yeah,
So Riot technically have the say in that. Like if someone was banned in LCS from toxicity, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't be allowed to play either.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's a fair point. It's just there was probably a little bit of miscommunication. One person said it was okay, and maybe I think I don't know for 100% sure whether this is the case, but apparently maybe a writer's got involved and said actually no, they can't because we're like basically sponsoring you, and they weren't just. I don't think Cliff was just player banned. I think he was like account banned, so he wasn't allowed to.
Yeah, he was the cameraman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's another reason why he wouldn't be able to go in a Smurf if he's account banned. So the actual first game that was on was FM versus Manalight.
yeah.
And what are your
I think
thoughts about this?
FM were blue side, weren't they? Um,
Yes, they were.
yeah, I think it was Popley versus Nautilus top lane.
Yeah,
And I don't think. I mean, it seems like Nautilus is really strong this now, and I don't think that they were able to answer the ZZ Rock banner. Because I
yeah,
remember very early into the game, they had lost the tier 1 and 2 towers top lane, and they were just being pushed in so hard, and they couldn't answer the mid push at the same time or something. And so, in terms of, I guess, in terms of individual skill, statistically, Manalight are better.
yeah.
Looking at ranks, uh, and I think that they couldn't answer the push from the top lane from the Z0 and the banner, so that applied a lot of pressure, and I guess they couldn't hold out for much longer after that.
Yeah, I think FM had a pretty decent early game actually. It wasn't too bad. They played pretty well in terms of getting a couple of picks,
Yeah,
and they played well around team fights, but they never actually got anything from it, which was a bit unfortunate. Manalight would always make, like, if they made a pick, they'd either at least push the waves out so that they couldn't do, like, FM couldn't do anything, or they'd get a tower. And the only time, or the only 2 towers that FM actually got was one from the lane swap in the early game, which you're always going to get that tower anyway because you trade one for one. And
yeah,
then they made a decent dive top lane, and they got that tower, but Smiley and oh god, I can't remember the support's name now, but the support got the tower there. So they both times they got a tower, it just ended up being traded back, and
yeah,
then they'd make a pick and they'd get a tower, and that was basically the scenario for the entire game. Even though FM were like ahead in kills for a little bit of the game, they couldn't get anything from it, and because of the ZZ Rock and banner, like Poppy can't wave clear that. There's no way.
Yeah.
She doesn't have anything to deal with that. So they were just constantly split pushing, and they just slowly just ended up taking the game away from FM. And I mentioned it last week, but yeah, Hado, thank you. I'm a bit disappointed in FM in terms of their shot calling. I'm not sure who the shot caller is on FM, but I was a bit worried about their shot calling again this week. It was a bit better than last week's, or rather week two's, but I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on.
Week 2 was against Eminem, wasn't it? Yeah.
They made some very questionable decisions that game.
Yeah, they did. They did actually. I thought they did well against completely ignoring Carthus. I think I remember it was about
Yeah,
15 minutes in. I think they just four-manned top with Lucian there.
yeah,
Yeah, I think they killed Lucian.
yeah.
I can't remember who the jung like I think Rek'Sai was there. Yeah, either way,
Yeah.
they apart from that they did not answer well to the Carthus.
Yeah, they did. They just let him. They just let him farm, and then they just didn't. They that game they actually didn't do anything. They were so passive, and then in the end they were just like, all right, let's fight. And then Carter's got a quadra kill, and the game was absolutely over from that point.
Yeah, yeah. But I think I like I say I'm still quite new to the league itself, but I think they can do really well. Like their
Yeah,
top laner
definitely.
Angel is
Yeah,
mechanically really good.
he played really well that game. Actually, he was the one who was making picks a lot of the time for FM with his stuns as Poppy, and so I was pretty impressed. Manalight took a few like questionable fights, but they always got something from it, so it wasn't a problem. So yeah, I think FM are definitely a strong team. There's just something slightly lacking with them, and I want to see them do well. So I'm slightly disappointed in that regard.
Yeah,
The second game of the night was Exertus versus TCA.
yeah. They had a Rammus that game, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. So
Kind
we
of fell to the same mistake we went.
so
um, I'd say, I mean, you had three ADs, didn't you?
yeah, we did.
Yeah, I think that was, and they got a quadrukill at mid with LeBlanc about 10 minutes or
Yeah,
something.
something like I think we're somewhere between like 8-10
Um,
minutes. Yeah.
but I think you actually kept, you somehow kept even, uh, up until you got ace around 20 minutes, didn't you?
Yeah, something about that
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
So I actually think apart from the scaling Rammus, where you probably wouldn't be able to, you had to finish it as soon as you could, otherwise you wouldn't be able to answer the Rammus. But apart from that, I think TCA did quite well in answer, like considering LeBlanc and Rammus, you kept up evenly in terms of gold, I think.
I'm not too fussed about the game. It was one we had to use a last minute sub because we thought we were still had enough like one more token to basically replace someone. So we'd been scrimming with this person for like the last
Yeah,
3-4 days, and then when we went to submit the team sheet, yes, I were like, no, you've used them all. So we're like, oh, okay. So we had to use one of the initial players that we played with, and we had to. It was Giblet, who what is an AD carry main, and we put him mid there. Hence why we obviously put him on Corky mid.
yeah,
And so we didn't have any practice with them at all. So I'm quite happy with what they did. It was about 18 minutes before Exodus actually took a gold lead off us, and then they just smashed us after 23 minutes. But yeah,
yeah,
you've got Ramis against three ADs, and even Malphite was open at that point, so I'm surprised Malphite wasn't taken. We took it because we took it last pick
yeah,
to deal with the Ramis, but yeah, not a great game. Exodus just played really well. I think the game ended about 3 minutes after that fight in mid because they
yeah.
just
The
took that
ace.
gold. Yeah, they just took that gold lead, and then they just finished the game. They got like 2 towers from it. Then the next fight happened, and it was just another ace and game over. They just cleaned house. So the last game was Choke versus M&M.
Yeah, I guess we kind of fell similar to you in the draft.
Yeah,
We couldn't really answer the Rammus, and I think by the time Fiora could 1v1 Rammus, we had already lost an inhib bot, and then we already pushed back to our third tower top. Um, and yeah, I remember they read our lane swap because we knew that Fiora Rammus were not going to be a good matchup, and so we went for a lane swap, but so did they, and they read it better than us, I think, because they caught us out top lane while Smokey and Prosper were rotating to top through the river,
yeah.
and we had to burn heal, I think. It was either flash or heal, and that instantly just did not put us in a good situation, given that they had lane swapped as well.
Yeah, I think it was Flash. I'm
Uh,
not sure. It was a bit of a messy fight that at the top. Like
yeah,
someone probably should have died there, but no one did.
yeah. I think Prosper, who was Poppy, he managed to push back. They had, was it Callista or Lucian?
I
I can't.
think
I
it
think we had Lucian, and they
was Braum and Callista. Yeah, because the Callista
yeah,
started
yeah.
W, and that's what basically. If she had started Rend, then she would have got
Lucian
the
would have
kill.
died.
100% would
Yeah.
have got the kill. Yeah.
But then we healed, and then Poppy obviously, yeah, just pushed back the Callista. So that wasn't a good start for us. They put a lot of pressure onto Veigar mid, and obviously Veigar is not very strong early game, and we had Fiora who also wasn't very strong early game. So I feel we need a lot more preparation for champ select. Um, so yeah, they just kept pushing us back, and I think Nucci, I felt like Nucci was shot calling that game.
Yeah,
I don't know
definitely.
if he was, but they were more organized than previous weeks.
I think I'm kind of glad that people are starting to pick up Ramis a bit more, especially if like Malphite is banned, because I feel like he does a similar job, and the TP ganks with Home Guard are not a lot of people seem to know how to deal with it. So I'm glad that people are using that as a tactic. Um, and basically, I think I'd agree. I think Nutri was the shot caller for that week
Yeah,
because, as you said, they were definitely more organized. They seemed more what's the word I'm looking for? But aggressive, I guess. They actually
yeah,
decided to take turrets constantly, and Nutri played a pretty good game. So something I want to talk about, which I do every week, is who do you think MVP of the week is? And personally, I'd give it to Nutri because of just how. I mean, it could just be that Choke had practiced a lot in that week, but I
yeah,
think that the actual transition that was made from week 2 to week 3, and I'm not saying like Dandy Chap's a bad player at all. I kind of would give um, Nutri the kind of same role that Hyde does, in that he's not as good of a jungler as say like Dandy Chap, but potentially his shot calling is better, and that's why was able to give Choke such a good game, and they just absolutely wiped the floor with M&M. Sorry.
It was like I said, we did get outdrafted, and I would agree with you. I think Nucci, for some reason, when you said who do you think MVP is, just Nucci came to mind.
Yeah.
I think he I felt like he did shot call, and they punished us a lot, taking a lot of towers. So
Yeah, the
yeah,
trouble is like Vigar got behind quite a lot because of the lane swap that happened. The side lanes I think were doing okay by themselves, and Nutri managed to put down a bit of pressure in the early game. And Corki versus Vigar isn't exactly a good matchup anyway. And
yeah,
then obviously everyone got QSS, so that's what do you do then as Vigar, who's already behind? You can't make any picks because the 3 people that you want to target, they've got QSS, so you can't do anything about that. And I have a feeling that Nutri in that regard as a shot call is probably someone again similar to High. He basically tells everyone exactly how to play the game and tells them what to do at certain specific times. because I know he was the shot caller on FM with Tundra, and obviously they were a very
Yeah.
successful team, and he's had a lot of experience, like professional experience in that regard. So that's why I think that to improve in such a short space of time, that's probably why Choke got so good, and that's why I think he's deserving of the MVP of like this week.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
So
I totally agree.
So we go on to week 4, and previewing this week's matchups. The first game of the night is going to be FM versus TCA. And who do you
Uh,
think is going to win this matchup?
I want to say FM because I feel like I think in week 1 against Renegades, Angel did really well against it was week 1 I think
Yeah, I
against
think so.
Alfari and then yeah last the week against us they didn't answer us very well, but then last week against um, Manalight they showed a lot of promise, so I think maybe this week with enough practice they might be able to pull it out the bag.
It could be a consistency issue. So we'll see how it goes. I think TCA will win,
Yeah, that's fair
obviously.
enough.
But I mean, there's I always joke about like being biased, but seriously, I think that TCA will actually win this week because actually the first week where we'll have our full roster, where we've not had to make any changes at all, and we can actually finally have had like a decent amount of practice. I think it's only about 4 or 5 days because our mid laner was away, so we've been practicing since Saturday for like properly, and with like some extra management that we've got on board too in TCA like Ferndog, who's going to
Yeah,
really be able to help us with our strats as well. I think
yeah,
that
your
we've
new
just
coach, right?
yeah, I think we've basically just got the edge in every regard. So I look forward to the matchup. Again, I don't think it's going to be like super easy. FM seem to showcase a lot of talent, but with their shot calling issue, and we've got a pretty strong shot caller in Raisins, I think it's just going to go to us. So do you know whether you're actually playing your game tomorrow against Infused?
Um, I'm pretty sure they've used up all their slots,
Yeah, I believe so.
and uh, and sub and Cliff still can't play
Yeah, this week
as
he
it's a
can't
two
play,
week
yeah.
ban.
Yeah.
So I think it is a forfeit.
Okay. Just in
And
case
I
it's not, well, because I'm not 100%, I asked around quickly before the show, but no one was 100%. They said, yes, I think it is, but we don't know yet. So, do you want to just give your prediction? Who do you think is going to win if they do play?
um I think obviously yes, I think that they've had a very tilty 2 3 weeks,
Yeah,
and as long as we outdraft them, I think as a team we could outplay them. Even though they have mechanically strong players, I don't know how much they've been practicing or how much they've been playing, but it seems that they've not had a great start to the season. So I would say yes.
and I've noticed that they've been playing with Prince Philip from Newell Titans. So I don't know if they've managed to come to some sort of agreement where, because of the scenario that they're currently in, that they're actually allowed to use like another sub slot, just because of the fact that if they would have to kick a team out, or if because ESL might have to kick a team out, might be a bit bad for the tournament. So if they play with Prince
Yeah.
Philip, that might be interesting.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Infused dropped the lineup. Like they're not team
Well,
Infused
yeah,
anymore.
yeah, that's true. It wouldn't be
So
infused
that might
tomorrow.
change. Yeah,
Yeah,
that might change the situation that they might be allowed one more slot.
yeah,
And so yeah, I that but if they do play with Prince Philip, then again I just go back to the point that how much have they been playing together and how well can they play as a team under pressure?
yeah, exactly. So the third game of the week or tomorrow is another important game that I think is going to potentially decide between second and third place
Yeah,
is Exertus versus Manalight. I think this is going to be a really, really close game, especially since um, like Renegades versus Exodus was quite interesting. Like it was another close one, and the individuals on both sides are really, really strong. And I can't wait to see the matchups in terms of like bot lane and especially mid lane. I think that's going to be super, super interesting.
Yeah. Um, I think Manalight are going to lose.
I think
Um,
so, yeah.
they slipped up in the promotions a bit. Like they were very rocky. Not the promotions in some of the qualifying games. I think it was qualifier one or two. I can't remember which one it was. Um, like which game. But I remember watching them and thinking they should not be slipping up at this stage. And I think Exertus just when they played Renegades, they were literally on par up to about 15 minutes where they just couldn't. They were trying to make good plays and Renegades were just too good for them. But I think if they do play that same type of game against Manalight, they're going to win. I don't think Manalight could answer back to them.
Yeah, I did notice that Manalight were making some silly mistakes, like I did mention before. So Exodus have probably slightly got the edge in their lanes. So it's just going to go down to how they actually play around the map rather than the champs they pick, probably. But we'll see how it goes. I'd give it to Exodus as well. And because I didn't actually
Yeah.
answer the last one, in case they do play, I'd also give it to M&M to win. And the last game of the night is Choke versus Renegades. Yes,
Um,
Choke have been playing well, and again, they are playing with Nutri because
yeah.
Candy Chap is still on holiday. I still think
Well,
Renegades.
Nucci, obviously, running Paylo when he played for next to Helio, they lost to FM with Nutri in it. So maybe Nutri is their bane.
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe,
he's
maybe.
maybe he's Impaler's bane. But I think yeah, it will be Renegades. Just however, Cadril has gone has gone to Copenhagen Wolves.
I see. I
I heard. If you go on
did not know that.
Lolpedia,
Oh,
it said Cadril joins Copenhagen Wolves.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. Do they have a mid lane sub? They've. I can't think. I feel like they do. I feel like they do have a mid lane sub, but I'm not 100% sure. However, whoever they do get, um, uh, that does make it slightly difficult. I feel like he'd still be able to play, or he'd
Yeah.
still play at least for this week. But I don't know. I'll have to have a look at that. Right now, I'm still gonna say Exodus will take. No, sorry, not Exodus. Renegades will take it. So we'll see. I might change my mind on Twitter afterwards, but I think Renegades will still take it, even if they do replace Cadro with someone else.
Um,
So, so the last thing
yeah.
is, do you have any shout outs that you'd like to say?
Um, I guess my brother, he is a co-founder, and he, um, yeah, just the co-founder. Like my brother, I mean, he is on the other side of the world, and I'm pretty unfair with him in terms of what he used to, what he can and cannot do, and sometimes I'm a bit too hard on him for that. So uh, I think we do a good job. He's probably asleep right now. I mean, they're 8 hours ahead, so um, I'll give a shout out to him. We both make sure we both don't mess up in some way because I can get a bit too emotional and he just gets a bit lazy, and so it's good that we both help each other in that way. And I guess to everyone at M&M and their management, Chris and Timmy, Larry, who's joined us recently. Um, but yeah, and you, of course, for inviting me on here. Um, and actually there are quite a lot of people I do speak to, like in terms of management, and I can't shout out to everyone, but there is one person who did help me a lot. It was called his in-game name is Nox. Nox. So I shout out to him as well, and I think everyone else generally knows who knows that I appreciate their work and help. I think that's it. But yeah, thank you for inviting me as well
No
onto
problem.
this.
Shout out to all your fans and everything and all that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I still get it, on Facebook. If I see a notification, I see someone like or comment or favorite or retweet on Twitter. I honestly still think that's amazing. Like, if one person follows us or retweets us, I still get the chills. I find it so weird that people want to follow us and support us. So yeah, that really does help motivate me.
Yeah, for sure. So, once again, thanks to everyone who tuned in today, whether it's on the live show right now or potentially on the YouTube channel in a couple of days' time. I'd obviously like to thank you, Kalvin, for coming on today. I know you're a very busy guy, so I appreciate you coming on and giving us a little bit of insight onto your side of the industry. Next
Yeah.
week, we'll be having Ex-Scoundrel on to follow up from Sona's discussion, but from his viewpoint as a colorcaster. And you can keep up to date with Talking Esports and all things TCA by following us on social media platforms. And you can also follow me and Kalvin as our handles are below these cameras. And thanks everyone, and see you all next week.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye.